Hi, my name is Alberto Martinez, and this is my oral defense. The name of my research project is actually transitioning to communicative activities in a primary-level EFL classroom in the Dominican Republic. This research project was done with the collaboration and help of Dr. Alba Gutierrez, and the project was actually done with my sixth grade students in a school called Los Rieles II in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. Now, this is actually an action research project, and it is actually focused on communicative language teaching approach. It actually comprises the definition of communicative language teaching, CLT, as I will be calling it, and its different forms. It also focuses on how to develop and implement communicative activities in the classroom where students have not been taught with the current approach. And they are intended to see how students reacted to the transitioning process, like their attitudes and motivation as well. The research project is actually intended for primary teachers, as the study was conducted with my sixth grade students, as I said before, and it was actually a primary level school where I was actually working on. Now, the project is also focused on main topics such as communicative activities, students' receptivity, new strategies, and students' motivation and attitudes. There were many reasons why I decided to do this research, this specific topic, and one of the main reasons is that here in the Dominican Republic, little emphasis has been given to English language teaching, and it's been such a problem that when I was in high school, the teachers that taught English were not from the area. They were actually teachers from math, science, and history, and as the Dominican curriculum has English as a compulsory subject, teachers were forced to teach it, although they didn't know English at all. Now, it was back in 2014 when the Ministry of Education started hiring English teachers to teach English in the public area, and that was a great thing. In 2017, I actually participated in a course called English for Communicative Language Teaching, where I learned a lot. I learned how to teach English in English and many strategies that we can use in the classroom to have a better environment. Now, something I have to point out is that the majority of materials that we receive at school are actually oriented to be implemented with a communicative method, but we have a big problem in here, and the problem is that we lack of training on how to implement the communicative method or approach. The problem will actually help my colleague teachers to a great extent because few researches have been done in this area. Now, when I started doing the project, I started thinking about the research questions that I wanted to approach, and I actually ended having 3 research questions. The first one was what communicative activities students were more receptive to, what were students' attitudes while developing their communicative activities, and what strategies could be used to have successful communicative activities. Parting from the research questions, I got to the objectives, 3 main objectives. One was to identify the communicative activities that students were more receptive to investigate students' attitudes while developing the communicative activities, and finally, to analyze the new strategies that could be implemented to have successful communicative activities. Before I go into details about my findings, I would like to let you know that communicative language teaching, CLT, as it is normally called, is an approach to language teaching that emphasizes interaction. Interaction between students and students, teachers and students, and the finality of CLT is actually preparing students to speak the target language, in this case English, in the classroom and outside the classroom in any type of situation. In regards to the origins of CLT, Richards and Rogers said that the origins of communicative language teaching are to be found in the changes in the British language teaching tradition dating from the late 1960s. Now, CLT was actually a response to the rejection of the current approach being implemented back on that time, which was the situational language teaching. Now, CLT has many characteristics, but Littlewood, 1981, states that one of the most characteristic features of CLT is that it pays attention to functional and as well structural aspects of the language, which was a great thing because the majority of prior approaches or approaches that were implemented before, that's what I mean, didn't have the double focus that CLT had. Communicative language teaching has many activities. For example, just to mention a few, we have information gap, jigsaw activities, role play, opinion sharing, group work, reasoning gap, and many others. Now, something very important from CLT is that the roles of the teachers and students is pretty different from the previous approaches. Now, the teacher is not the center of attention. The teacher now is seen as a helper, as a moderator who guides students in their learning process. And students have a very active role in CLT. Many studies have been carried out in the area, like in the area of implementing the communicative language teaching approach. Just to mention a few of them, or two of them I mean, in 2015, Rana Saad Al-Kafahi carried out a research called An Application of the Communicative Language Teaching Approach for English as Foreign Language Learners in Arab Context. Saad Al-Kafahi came to the conclusion that implementing the communicative approach was not successful, and the reason was that teachers were not trained on how to implement it. So he came to the conclusion that to succeed in implementing the CLT approach, the first thing that we need to have is well-trained teachers. Another study carried out by Saeed Ahmad and Kalman Rao, it was made in 2013, and it was called Applying Communicative Approach in Teaching English as Foreign Language, a case study of Pakistan. Now, all the opposite to Saad Al-Kafahi, Ahmad and Rao came to the conclusion that applying the communicative method or approach was very beneficial and effective only if the appropriate conditions were given. To develop my research project and get the results, the research type adopted for my investigation was an action research, and it was carried out on a qualitative approach. Now, 3 interventions were done to implement the communicative approach with my students. First, what I did was 2 interviews were made. A structured interview was made before implementing the sessions, before starting the sessions, and these structured interviews had the objective to see what students' expectations or the activities, the communicative activities the student liked. Then we had an after-session interview, and this after-session interview was only to see students' opinions about the activities and their feelings about the methodology being implemented. I have to point out that 50% of students, 50% of the total population was interviewed, and I had a total of 20 students in the classroom and 10 of them were interviewed. Another way to get the to collect the data was the participant observation. And the participant observation, what I did was to use the note-taking technique to register what happened during the sessions. Information such as how the procedures worked, students' reaction, and specific aspects pertaining to the process at the moment of the activities or strategies being implemented. In fact, all the data collecting tools such as interviews and participant observation were studied and chosen to cover the objectives of the investigation. In the interviews results, I have very important information, and for example, the activities the students liked the most were group work. 70% of interview students said that they actually like group work. 10% said they like role play. Then another 10% said that they like conversations, and a final 10% said that they like giving opinions. In towards or regards on how students feel when speaking English in the classroom, 60% of them said that they like it. 30% said that they feel nervous, and 10% said that they feel positive. Now, when students have to do activities in the classroom, 60% of them said that they participate, 30% said that they like it, and only 10% said that they didn't like doing activities in the classroom. But when students have to look for information, those activities where they have to have interactions with other classmates, 80% of them said that they participate, while 20% said that they participate but they don't like it. According to the observation results, the implementation of the communicative activities was very productive, as after the first session, students started using the target language, like they were saying hello to me, how are you, and that was something very productive. Something I've noticed there that there was a great disposition to participate within the majority of activities, except some cases where students denied to participate. For example, in the mingle activity, some students didn't want to stand up, or they just wanted to talk to their friends, and it was a very it was not that well there. But in a general aspect, students liked to work in pairs, and they actually responded very positively on this sense. But as I mentioned before, while the implementation of the communicative activities, there were difficulties when developing such activities. For example, I had to repeat and model several times what they were supposed to do, as well as moderation of my speech. I think in a personal, I believe that according to the results, that the expected outcomes for each session were accomplished. The majority of students assimilated what it was taught during the interventions. And actually, according to students' performance and answers, group work, role play, and opinion sharing were activities that really activated their motivation. And as we might know, motivation is a key factor when we want to have very productive class sessions. Now, based on the results obtained, we come to the conclusions that group work was the communicative activity that worked best with my sixth grade students. Students actually were very focused and very positive minded while developing group work activities in combination with another. Like, for example, opinion sharing. The opinion sharing activity was very engaging and students felt motivated to participate. Information gap activity in combination with group work was very productive. Students really got engaged. They got really engaged searching for their partner's information. The information transfer, as I mentioned before, and the mingle activities didn't work that well because there was a lot of discrepancy, negativism there while developing the activities. So that's why I came to the conclusion, based on the results obtained, of course, that this type of activities were not very productive with them. Now, in regards to reactions and attitudes, I can say that they were more positive than negative ones. Students had a great connection. They laughed, they had fun, and some of them controlled to a decent degree their anxiety of speaking the target language in the classroom. Now, while developing and implementing the communicative activities, I actually used many strategies to see how we went. Now, I noticed that based on the results and students' reactions, that introducing the target language in a progressive way is a good strategy to implement the communicative activities effectively, as well as using appropriate resources. That's what people call realia, such as pictures and videos. Those type of resources are also a very good strategy that really worked with my sixth grade students. And I also should mention that repetition and modeling are very fundamental while implementing the communicative activities. I hoped that you have enjoyed this presentation, and this was done with the collaboration of my sixth grade students. I have to thank them and thank all the people who helped me and enlightened me to finish this master. Thank you very much, and this is the end of my presentation of my research. Thank you.